Hey guys, Luna here with the Artisan Tarot. I am back again because we're gonna go over the Goddess Artemis. And instead of doing the 5 reasons, I decided to do 7. And I thought, how strange. Why would I do Artemis right after I started talking about Pisces season? But then I found something in my research. And I was like, oh, now I get it, because that's how spirit works. That's what working with the 12th house and doing psychic mediumship is always like. So, without further ado, sorry, I've got that crown in my hair that you guys can't see, but I swear I look so fucking cute. So sorry, so freaking cute with this thing on. Sorry, y'all. I'm just like, I'm so sad it won't show. And I look so cute with this dang thing on. Anyway, but if y'all want the link to the crown, I took it off just because I want y'all to see it. It bothers me. I bought it so you guys could see it, and now y'all can't even see it because Zoom's virtual background blurs it out. Just so y'all can get a quick see. It's super lightweight. I'm like, I look so cute with this. Like, dang it, Zoom. Okay, now that that's over, let's go into the 7 reasons of why you would want to work with the goddess Artemis. Now, before I go into the 7 reasons, let's go into a little bit of an intro, kind of like I did with Aphrodite. And for those of you who didn't know that I've actually worked with Aphrodite, I have. And I have several videos pertaining to that as well. And I'm going to go ahead and link that probably at the end or down in the description box below. It's going to be somewhere. Like with the crown and all those links and the links to my website. I will say this, as I said in our previous video, I immediately went to Artemis thinking protection, but she is a goddess of feminine protection. So if there are any males who are wanting to work with her, I'm not saying you can't. I would say try to make a connection. If it works, great, because you'll know, trust me, she'll tell you. And if it doesn't, I have a backup for you. So, okay, so don't kind of worry if you can't make a connection with her. All will be revealed in time. So if you're here from, the 3 reasons why you'd want to work with the Pisces reading, thank you for coming back. And if you're feminine or you are of a feminine body type, because now we have the his, her, she, him, or him. I'll be honest, I'm still a little confused and lost at times because I don't know exactly what applies to what, and I don't want to be incorrect and upset people. So just know that if you identify as feminine and you are a male, you can try and, like I said, make contact with Artemis. It might work. If it doesn't, don't panic. I got something for you in another video. If it does, excellent, because usually she's more for a goddess who are women who are biological females. Now, again, this goes back to ancient times. And for those of you who don't know, I actually am an art historian and minor in classics scholar. So, spanning from Cradle of Life to Babylon, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, like Greek, Etruscan, Roman, Irish, Celtic, Welsh, Anglo-Saxon, Germanic tribes, Norsemen, Asia Minor, where the Middle East is, but in ancient times used to be considered, some parts of it were modern day Persia. Some parts, it's what we would call it today, but it's not that anymore. But those areas, as well as not limited to indigenous tribes of the US, but also indigenous tribes located in the Texas area on the coast and central Texas, as well as the Inca Empire, the Aztec Empire, and lastly, the Maya Empire. So I have that going all the way up to the medieval period. So excuse my references. I'm sorry. I apologize, but they're ancient. Okay, so we're working with this ancient culture. Now, let's go ahead and move forward because it's interesting. Artemis actually, she is tied into existence in the pre-Hellenic times. Now, in art history, we actually have a Hellenistic art period. So this is that time period in art history where Artemis starts to come through in the Greco-Roman pantheon. Because before that, it was the Titans And then it was the Olympians and the Great War had happened in the mythology of the golden era of mythology in Greco-Roman mythology, mainly Greek, because Roman Empire hasn't existed yet. So, but for those of you who are not aware of Artemis, she also goes by Diana. Sometimes some people know her as Selene. Selene is also a moon goddess. And sometimes those three names are interchangeable and sometimes they're not. It really depends. I like to use Artemis as a way of connecting with her because I feel Diana is another way to connect with her, but a more evolved version. Like, remember how in the Aphrodite video, I spoke about Aphrodite has origins in Ishtar. Again, if you didn't watch that, you really need to go watch that video. It's the 3 reasons why you'd want to work with Aphrodite to enhance your love and romance life. And I kind of talk about that, and I talk about how eventually Aphrodite to the Greeks becomes evolved from the Greco Empire into the Roman Empire as the goddess Venus. Okay, so Artemis is basically what the Greeks knew her as and what she eventually evolves into in terms of Diana. So there you go. But her mythology in of itself and her birth is actually tied to the Hellenistic time period of Greece, which is actually quite rare because most of the other deities were not brought about in this time period. Only her and Apollo were brought about in this time period. And there is a reason for that. Because as everybody knows, if you don't know, you're going to find out Artemis is a twin. She is a goddess, technically, I would say, of twins, but she has that like twin energy. So if you don't know or you are not familiar with, Artemis is the daughter of Zeus and Leto. Leto was a Titaness goddess, and it was a big scandal that, Zeus was going around having sex with women and then, having babies out of them to Hera. Like she, she got very upset and basically cursed Gaia to basically make sure Leto could not have her babies. And so Gaia, being sympathetic, sent a little raft onto an island, and Artemis was born. And Artemis was born and then helped her mother birth Apollo. She is a goddess of midwives. So, but it's interesting because Artemis is mainly known for her like, she's almost like a fae too, if you think about it, because the way my research, it's like described, she likes to reside in wooded areas. She likes to dance, which the fae are known for dancing in wooded areas. If you haven't already figured out, I actually have worked with the fae. I love working with them. They're actually a part of my ancestry, like in terms of lineage and like where I come from. I'm part Celtic and Welsh on one side of the family, and so they were druids, and so like it's kind of like a thing in the family that I'm the only one that works with them, and they like to hang around. So but I'm like, God, like I'm reading this now as a scholar, and I'm like, okay, I see some pre-fairy origins here, especially the mentioning of like, because she liked to hang out with nymphs. Nymphs are elementals. Sometimes I feel like nymphs and fae spirits are a little bit different, but they are close to each other in terms of they are elements of nature. So in that respect, they're more like elementals. But it's interesting because Artemis was known to be like a tree goddess, which is also interesting. But like I said, she was known for dancing in the woods and residing in wooded areas. And actually, she was quite popular in the Peloponnese region. That's a very hard thing to say, especially if you get that joke from Hercules about I could see through that in a Peloponnesian minute. If you don't know that reference, you need to go Google it because it actually talks about a war that happened in the Peloponnese region. I apologize, guys. But what most people know Artemis for in terms of her divinity is goddess of the wild animals, goddess of the hunt, goddess of the moon, goddess of chastity, goddess of childbirth, and goddess of bows and arrows. So my first reason why I love to work with Artemis, and it's rare that I work with her, but when I do, she's very interesting when she comes around. She doesn't just come around at night. She comes at a time when things are quiet, when it's still like this. And you can just kind of relax. It doesn't mean you're going to easily go to sleep, but if you are casting and you need protection in terms of your spellcraft or whatever, and depending on what you practice in terms of your spirituality and or moon magic, it also kind of depends on what you're casting too. She's not like one that will like come and protect you, not like Hecate, very different in energy. But if it is a various sector of one of these 7 items that we're going to talk about, she will come if you've made the established connection with her. But she can help enhance moon magic. And in fact, she is known to be a part of the triple goddess for the moon. So if you don't know, there's the maiden mother crone. And she is considered, who in the heck is calling? Hang on, guys. Goodness. I apologize, guys. I thought that was, oh my gosh. Okay. But she is usually known as the maiden, and this has to do with her second attribute, if I can see my fingers, there we go, of being a goddess of chastity. So how do I say this without sounding weird or, okay, I'll put it this way. There are several goddesses in the Greco-Roman pantheon. Only 3 took a vow of chastity. One of them was Artemis. And online on Pinterest, there's a lot of jokes that, you know, like Artemis took a vow of chastity, but really she's like into women and all that. And she has quite a following of the gays and, you know, community. And I would say the lesbian community, and transgender as well, for just her being her. like some of the jokes that are made on Pinterest, like I can't help but laugh at, because I know like they're probably right. But nonetheless, in ancient times, it wasn't necessarily seen as that. She wasn't seen as that. She was just seen as a goddess of the hunt. And in fact, she actually had a male lover, who Orion, who is basically killed by either Apollo or Gaia. And he is known to be the hunter that goes after the scorpion in the Scorpio like little list. If you are a Scorpio, there you go. If you didn't know that, there you go. But in the mythology of it, she was going to break her vow of chastity for Orion. And Gaia was like, no, no, no. So she sent the scorpion. In some instances, it was Apollo who did it. And in other instances, it was, well, we see it coming, so we're going to challenge him that he can't take on any beast. And then the beast is going to kill him and he's going to kill the beast. And that's how it happens. So there's like 3 different versions of that myth. But nonetheless, it reiterates that Artemis was in fact chaste. So chaste, though, it is a definition, because if you are a single woman in today's modern society, being chaste is different to everybody. Okay. And I like working with Artemis when I know there are people in the dating realm that I need to stay away from. And I'm like, Artemis, can you like help me like detract this guy, please? Like, this is not the one I want to work with. Like, can you protect me from this one? He's giving me bad vibes, or like things like that. I will ask for her help. And can you lead me to the right one, please, that I'm supposed to meet? You know, can you help me out? And she's actually fun, because she really does like get rid of the low vibing men when you're trying to date. It's actually kind of fun. You know, she kind of clears that path for you. She gets them to clear in a way where they just kind of take off on their own and leave you alone, which is nice. Now, number 2, she is also a goddess of the hunt. Now, it's interesting. How is she the goddess of the hunt? It mainly has to do with 2 things: wooded areas, but to women in ancient times didn't hunt. So a lot of people tend to get confused. And I think what the definition of the hunt was, because she's also a goddess of vegetation, was for like small game, like rabbits or things like that. Because that I could see women could lay traps in ancient times, and they would be able to have ideally something small to eat, portable, that they could hunt But nowadays we don't have that. So I would say, again, that term hunt you could use, I guess, in the dating world. Like if you're out and about and you're trying to, again, be led to the right one, but like cut through the chase of like hunting for the right one, that would be the way I would use her, just because I haven't used her like that out and about, but I can see it as that. Or if you want to find a good place to eat, definitely with good vegetation, good salad, that would be my way to work with her. Again, because it has to do with her divine attribute. Or like, let's say you're like, oh, I just really wish I could find a good place to eat that has a decent salad. Like, she could guide you to it if she really wanted to. But I don't usually use the goddesses in that way. So, but if you, I guess if things are desperate and times are desperate, there you go. But I will say I would prefer to use her for gardening. And actually, there was a woman on TikTok that I gave a suggestion to. She was trying to grow evening primrose no, I'm sorry. She got a Diana planter. This is what it was. She got a Diana planter and said, I don't know what to put in it. And I said, why don't you put evening primrose in it? Because it was the crown part like this that was going to grow out over Diana's head. And I said, why don't you plant evening primrose? It is a feminine herb, and it is an herb that is associated with the nighttime. So you could plant nighttime herbs or plants in there and work with Diana that way and honor her. And she was like, oh my God, that's genius. Why didn't I think of it? And I was like, well, not to let people know that she's vegetation. So that's how I would prefer you guys work with her. If you want to grow jasmine, if you want to grow primrose or any kind of nighttime herb, that would be the way to go when working with Artemis. Now, childbirth. Artemis would be a good way of, let's say you need to find an OB, or let's say you need to find a midwife, or let's say you need to find a facility that deals with birthing. Okay. Well, Artemis can't come down and help assist with your birth because, technically her energy might, because she's a deity, but she's kind of going to be like everywhere, kind of like, how, I hate to use this reference, but like, how the angels are, like everybody's like, oh, they're everywhere. Kind of like that. But what you could do, because again, this is not necessarily for like medical prediction, but what you can do is you can ask Artemis to guide you to the correct space to give birth, or the correct doctor, the doctor that is meant to help you with the healthiest optimal birth. Because again, this is her divine attribute, midwife or facility. I say facility for medical reasons because that would be the more logical thing to do in these times. But sometimes we don't always have that. And in other areas of the world, they don't even have those. So you got to find the right person to help you get through that, either a coach or, like I say, a midwife or a doula. Okay. And the doulas actually do have information that can help, such as birthing centers and whatnot. So if you feel overwhelmed and you're pregnant and you're watching this, just know you can use Artemis in that way to help guide you to the correct person or the correct birthing center or the correct hospital that has maybe the OB that you're looking for when giving birth, or a backup, because you know how OBs like to take vacations in all those movies we watch, like in Knocked Up, her doctor takes a vacation and she goes into labor. So, and then she gets the doctor that turned into a comedian. Love him. But you see my point. Okay. So just saying, if you don't feel comfortable with just having a rando doctor as your OB when you're birthing, you can always ask Artemis to guide the right person who, as a doctor or a medical professional, into a space where you will feel comfortable, or maybe even just kind of help you feel a little bit more relaxed, because, giving birth is intense. Like, it is not for the faint of heart. Like, no. Things rip, open, nope, no. The pelvis breaks at some certain points, if you didn't know that. That happens. And so to kind of ease that scariness, it's kind of better to have a goddess who will help guide you to the right person, right? To kind of make that process a little bit less intense. So physical pain, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. You can get an epidural, but I'm going to say it like this. You'll still feel it in the healing process at some point or another. And this is based on many friends of mine who have had babies. They've told me. So I'm just saying, one way or another, there's going to be something you'll feel. But in that moment, in order to relieve your stress and anxiety, you might want to reach out to Artemis. Now, number 2, sorry, we're on point 5. Now, this is kind of how I like to use Artemis, is taking down gossiping women and cliques. I know, that's intense too. And you're like, what, Luna, you do that? I mean, look, if people are spreading rumors, that's one thing. People talk. We all talk. We were all given mouths and tongues and teeth to speak our truth, ideally. But sometimes people say things that aren't necessarily true and that aren't necessarily nice, and they're quite boastful. And, you know, they go and make your life a running muck. But instead of focusing your energy on those people and that running muck, it's better to call and ask and invoke the goddess Artemis to deal with those people. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, I don't understand. She's a goddess of vegetation. Why would you use her like that? You have not heard the myth of Nairobi, I believe is the Greco-Roman myth about her and her brother taking down this lady's kids and her after she spoke ill against their mom. Pretty intense. But hubris. Okay. The thing about the Greco-Roman myths is anytime the gods get mad, it usually has to do with hubris. If you don't know what that means, you should probably look it up. It's almost like overly haughty and over boastful, and that you're better than the gods. Okay. That's kind of a layman's terms of putting that word into perspective. But for the sake of this video that I'm posting, I kind of want you guys to understand when people talk ill against you and you're not doing anything wrong and they're just talking to make themselves look better, this is when you ask this goddess to come in and reveal the truth. Like, you know, get rid of the gossip and reveal the truth about you without you wasting your time or energy dealing with these people and the lies that they perpetuate with their forked tongues. Okay? So yeah. Because sometimes people are mean. People are mean. And Artemis is the goddess to call when someone's spreading nasty things about you and the truth needs to be revealed. Okay. Now, number 6. She is the goddess of bows and arrows. If you are an archer, or if you like archery, or if you like to hunt using a bow and arrow, the ancient ways, then this is the goddess that you would want to pay patronage to or homage to. Interestingly enough, my ancestors on one side of the family are part Slavic, and the Kaiser actually stole their land and told them they couldn't hunt on it. And my ancestors were like, we're still going to hunt on it. So they hunted on it, got in trouble, and got a kindly worded letter from the Kaiser stating that if they were hunted again, they would eventually be shot and killed and the whole family extinguished. This is my great grandfather. And he got that letter and he said, you know what? I'm still going to hunt on that man's land. I know it better than he does. And he did. And they would hunt the ancient ways. They would hunt with bows and arrows and knives, and they'd have to kill the game, and then they'd have to take it to the house, and they'd have to butcher it up before they would hunt between the hours of 11 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And they would have to do this, bring the game back, and then have it all cut up and ready and cooked for the week or however many days it lasted them until they had to go hunt again. And so in my family, nobody really honors Diana in that way anymore because now we're several generations forward. But I like to work with Diana as a way of paying homage to my ancestors who had the cojones to still go out there and said, okay, well, I'm going to face death either way through starvation. Might as well do what the heck I want and go get the game that this guy isn't using. And I guess in a way, maybe I look at it as it's a form of protection, you know, but if you have ancestors who also have had, or if you have to hunt that way, Diana is excellent, or Artemis is excellent to work with in those circumstances. She might lead you to the right game. She might lead you to the perfect hunting spot, a place where you can hunt in peace and not have to worry about being persecuted like my ancestors were. And so like I said, I like to pay homage. I actually did have a bow that was gifted to me. It was like a natural stick shaped like a bow. And unfortunately, it broke before I could dedicate it to her. But that was one way I was going to do that. Another way, and this is actually kind of bonus, is the terminology of lamania and lamanentis. So it actually translates from Greek into the words Lady of the Lake. And this is why I was like, oh, now I get why I was guided to like work with Artemis and do this 7 cool ways to work with her video. Because Artemis also supervised the waters, the lush, wild growth near the waters. And she was attended by the nymphs of the springs and the naiads. Sorry. So they're pretty much like water nymphs. So if you are the type of person, and so in a way, she also is a water goddess, but mainly of like spring waters and rivers. So, and lakes, because hence the Lady of the Lake, the name that we know in Arthurian legend, that's what it translates to. So in a way, she is also a water goddess, but not like Aphrodite is, but more in like localized ponds and rivers and game. Again, it has to kind of do with game. So if you're wanting a good fishing day, you might want to contact Artemis about that. But I would prefer her to be more protective in that element just a little bit, especially if you are doing the work for the Pisces video and you're working with your 12th house. If you need things to be more, like I said, localized and kind of tuned down from the collective so you can understand how you work in the collective energy of the world versus just as an individual or vice versa. Like, let's say you're like, okay, I know my purpose. How does it go to the collective? This is the goddess you want to use when you're trying to figure out your way in the collective, in that Pisces energy of the full oceanic water, to find your river or stream or like your way of like doing it to go to the collective. Okay. So also, again, she is a goddess of protection. So if you need protection in terms of maybe not so much psychic, but in terms of like how much that water element can be overwhelming, this is where you would ask Artemis for that level of protection. But other than that, guys, I got to head out. I love y'all so very much, and I will see y'all again next week for our next video, because I actually covered Artemis, but my next video I'm going to cover Apollo. So I love y'all so very much. I will talk to y'all later. Love you. Bye.